Welcome to the All of You podcast, where we believe healthy relationships are created by growing individually and pursuing a healthy relationship with yourself.
So let's take a deep breath. Settle in and grow together. All I wanted to do is start singing, "What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more."
So I will admit, when we first started dating, I did not fully understand what love was.
That is absolutely not how I thought you were going to start out this episode. And I'm fascinated to continue this conversation. But I actually would agree. I don't think you knew what love was either.
Do you think you had a good grasp?
I think mine was a little bit better.
It was better. I would say yours was better than me.
Yeah.
But do you think, were you on point?
No, it wasn't on point. I mean, it was a little bit blind leading the blind, but I might have had one eye. Like you had no eyes.
And I had been married before.
Yeah.
It's wild.
You know what's so interesting is you're such a quick learner with most topics, but this whole love one took you a minute or 10 to 15 years.
I mean, I would say people spend their whole life trying to figure out what love is. And a lot of people never find it.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to spill the beans, but I don't think you can really love someone else until you love yourself.
So I actually am, and this is like a little insight into our prep for the episodes. We don't talk about what we're about to talk about together before we hop on the mic.
Surprise.
And surprise. And I was curious if you were going to bring that statement up, because I think that's like the cliche. Maybe not cliche is not the right word, but like that is a household statement.
Mm-hmm.
If for lack of better terms. I'm not sure I agree with it.
So I wouldn't say I think I think it's somewhere in between. I think the truth is in the middle a little bit.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you can't love someone at all. I would say you can only love to the extent that you can love yourself. So when I met you, I don't think that I couldn't love. I could only love to the capacity that I knew how. I could only extend love to the point where it was too painful for me. There was wounds in my way. I had insecurities. I couldn't extend past that. I couldn't stretch myself to love you in certain blind spots or areas that I didn't want to go into myself, you know?
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. So I believe that you can only love someone to the extent that you love yourself.
See, this is where I find there's nuance to that, because I do believe that it's our wounds, our internal psychological wounds, that keep us from loving others in a healthy way. But I do think that you don't have to love yourself to be able to love someone else. No?
You don't?
No.
If you don't love yourself, it's really gonna affect the relationship.
Oh yeah, I know.
So how can you extend?
Okay,
so hold on. Let's back up. So what is love? Let's define it.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It is not
True.
boastful.
True.
And I forget the rest of the verse.
Yeah, that's true. But let's break down love a little bit first and foremost. So today we're going to talk about love, what is love, and probably a little bit the difference between love and lust, and what lust is.
How would you define love?
I define love as caring about the way the other person feels. So you can hold space for how that other person feels inside. Like if you love someone, it's caring about their internal world. That's like my blanket definition of love. Read this book called, is it How You Love? No, I
Return to
know
Love?
all about love. I read this book called All About Love by, I think, Bell Hooks, and I got that definition from that book. But yeah, caring about the way someone feels. So I think everybody has a different capacity to care about the way somebody feels. I tend to find that when we're wounded, we lose that capacity to extend that care. So I can only care about the way my kids feel to the point of my patience level. And that's like so everybody loves, I believe everybody on this planet loves something or extends love. Even the most mentally unhealthy people on this planet try to extend love, but we can only extend it to the capacity that we love ourselves, because our bucket gets empty. And if we don't have a lot in the tank, then we can't pour out that much. So if I'm really wounded and I can't love myself and I'm feeling really insecure, I may not be able to extend love to you in a moment when I need to, you know? So I think it's not so much about the butterflies and the romance. Like romance is different than love, and lust is different than love. Polarization between two partners, like that is different, you know? And I think we make it out to be the same thing, and it's just not.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we chase romance and sometimes lust because we love the feeling
Mm-hmm.
that it brings, and that feeling could be labeled love, but it's that like butterflies, attraction, initial kind of like chemistry, sparks flaming kind of a feeling. And I think that that is a beautiful part of love, is that those feelings can exist within it. But if we mistake those feelings for love, then we're actually missing the deepest, most beautiful part of love, which I think for me personally, when I feel love the most, the emotion feels as the closest thing I can compare it to in my body is safety. When I feel really, really loved, it's like this, oh, I'm at home, I'm safe. Like this feels safe,
Yeah.
warm. And that isn't found in the romantic gestures that you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually found in the, if, our life blows up and is going to hell in a handbasket, you're going to be by my side and making sure like we're in it together. Or feelings of just like you caring about how I feel. That makes me feel emotionally safe. And so I think that romance is fun and it's necessary and it's needed in its own right, but it isn't as it's like ice cream. Like we got to have some ice cream in life. But you can't have just ice cream. Maybe you probably could.
No.
You can't just have ice cream. You got to have some protein and fiber and carbs too, right? Like get your steak and potatoes in, and that's what love is.
Yeah, I don't think love is the ice cream at all.
No, I'm saying the romance
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, romance is, that's when I agree. Romance, I don't even think we should use them in the same statement.
Love
Like,
and romance in the
yeah,
same statement?
yeah.
Really?
They
But I
just have
think
nothing to do with each other to me.
I think they're cousins.
No, because I love a lot of people that I'm not romantic with.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
I just don't even think, I think that's where we get confused. And I think we confuse it because people don't know what love is. Like, I'm admitting that I didn't for a long time, and I mixed it up with romance as well. And it's because I was a sucker for a good time. I loved alcohol. I loved things that made me feel good. And when we first started dating, that butterfly feeling was fantastic. One of the best highs I've ever had. Like, admittingly, you know? And it's just so, it's honestly like a drug addict a little bit. You chase the high and you're riding this high and you can really get consumed by it. But there's a lot of factors in that lust, in that romance, that play into how that high is, like projecting your perfect partner onto someone. It wasn't until you showed your flaws that I realized, shit, I actually have to decide to love you.
Mm.
And that was not romance. That wasn't romantic at all. Our love is, I would say, is not romantic. Now, here's the connection point is, because I love you and we want to have romance in our life, it's good, it's fun, it's enjoyable for both of us. We prioritize having romance. But and because we love each other and we care about the way the other person feels and we care about the other person getting the most out of this life experience, we choose to keep the romance alive. But the romance is not the love. The love is the nitty-gritty. When I don't want to be romantic, I still choose to. You know, it's love is what carries you through in the lowest moments. And I think that we mix that up all the time because we get infatuated with someone and we project our deepest desires or hopes. We get lost in the other person. It's a great thing to get lost in. You know, when you're seeking out drugs or alcohol or parties or just a good time, a lot of times you want to get lost a little. You want to get distracted. You want to get caught up in the high of life. And I'm not saying that that's all bad. There's some enjoyable things in a good concert or a good party, but when it's to distract from yourself because you're in pain, and when it's to distract from, you know, the way you feel and really lose yourself a little bit, like you need to lose yourself, that's when it kind of is like a problem. I want to go somewhere and enjoy a good time because I want to enjoy the good time. I don't want to go and enjoy a good time because I want to distract from my loneliness or my insecurities or my whatever. And when we fall in love, a lot of times we're lonely, and so we meet another person and we get caught up in them. We just focus on them. We stop focusing. We don't have to focus on us anymore. It's one of the greatest distractions of all. And that's a massive problem. And I don't think that's love. I think that's lust. And I think it's like a drug. I'm not saying it's not enjoyable. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm saying it's not real love. And I think that we romanticize it we romanticize it. And then when two people are in love and they don't have the romance or they don't have the spark anymore, they think they're not in love. When really they just don't have chemistry in the moment. The love is not the chemistry. I promise you it's not, you know?
Yeah. So I think what's interesting is I hear the term a lot. They're in a loveless marriage. Would you say that when people say that, they're referring to a non-romantic marriage, or like truly is there no love?
I think probably both. It is a lot of marriages end up in no romance and no love. I think you can have a lot of love and no romance, and you still are unhappy because you're not fulfilled. You want romance in your life. Everybody wants a little romance in their life, you know? Not necessarily every day. You have work to do, you got stuff to do. I could not repeat our first 3 months together if I tried. It was so captivating. I wouldn't get anything done if I always was in that. I think we've said that before. Like, we don't want to replay it all the time. It would be unhealthy for us. We were so captivated by each other. But I think that you can have love and no romance, and you can have romance and no love.
Interesting.
And I think what we need to do and talk about is, what is the love part?
Hey friends, if you're struggling in your relationships, we want you to know we've been there and real change is possible.
So whether you're moving on from a breakup, working to strengthen your relationship, or just ready to show up differently in your life, we're here to help you out. Click the link in our bio and book a free 30-minute consultation with us, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together.
And if you're enjoying this episode, we would love it if you would like, subscribe, or share this podcast, because better relationships start with better conversations. Now back to the show.
And I always heard love is a choice, and I hated that. It made me mad.
Why did it make you mad?
Because I loved the romance. I wanted to believe that there was something out there that was magical. And not that it's not. I think it is. But I wanted to believe in the high because I loved the high.
I actually remember, because after like that 3-month mark, it's actually like scientifically backed. Like the rose-colored glasses start
at 3 months.
fading.
Somewhere between 2 and 4 months, you're gonna hit that
but
wall.
Mostly that magical 3-month mark, or maybe not so magical 3-month mark, is when
for us it was spot on.
I think almost to the day. And I remember you resisting that. I was a little bit more, hey buddy, like, we can't be in Loveville forever. Like, this was really fun, but like, let's follow suit with, you know, kind of stabilizing normal life. And you were not having that.
I was
Like,
addicted.
no, it should be like this forever. And if it's not, then we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And I would have chased that forever had I not learned what love really is. And that's when I put myself in classes and got coaches and really learned what true love is, and was mentored by some really good men. But up until then, I was going to chase that drug forever. And if I didn't learn that stuff, you would have broken up with me, and I would have pursued the first 3 months of a relationship over and over and over and over again. And
yeah, I actually want to kind of tap into that a little bit because, and I could be wrong, a lot of women talk about this common theme in men of this like Peter Pan syndrome, and like they'll be with you for a few months and then they drop you and they're like on to the next woman, right? What is that? Like, what, considering that kind, I hate to say it, but like that was a little bit you.
For sure it was me.
So what inside of you was so addicted to chasing that infatuation high?
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
It really was a drug. I think that when you project your perfect person and you're like, this person's going to fill the void that I have, and it's going to be some whimsical experience, and we are going to be, so men get addicted to the physical nature of the beginning of the relationship when you can't, get your hands off of each other, you can't stop locking eyes, all the chemicals are flowing through your body of dopamine. It is a massive dopamine rush. So anyone that's prone to dopamine, and loves anything like that, they're going to probably not be stoked when real love needs to kick in and the infatuation period is over. Anyone that copes with sex is gonna have a hard time when the sex isn't as often in a relationship and those beginning stages are over. And, even if you're not having sex, if you're just making out or being really physical in any way, any type of letdown from that can be really hard for a guy who's prone to coping with sex. And so I think the Peter Pan is someone who's like, yeah, when's the next ice cream? When's the next candy bar? Like, I like these feelings. These are good. And chases these. I mean, anyone who chases a lot of adrenaline rushes can be prone to that. I'm not saying it's textbook, but it's really common. And there's studies
So,
on this.
so when does Peter decide he wants to leave Never Never Land?
I think there's several reasons that Peter will leave Never Never Land, but for me, it was, I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing. It was painful because to stay in Never Never Land, where it's constantly that first 3 months, it's not really like that. It's the first 3 months, and then there's month 4, 5, and 6 where it's not so good, and then a breakup happens and people are hurt and it hurts you. It doesn't feel good. You don't feel good about yourself. You feel a sense of shame by not rising to the occasion of being the man that you could be. They say, like, a lot of people are saying this now, but most men don't leave. They don't break up with the girl because they don't like the girl. They break up with the girl because they're afraid to become the man they needed to become in order for the relationship to work. And that was kind of me. Like, I didn't want to rise to the occasion. I didn't want to give up my coping mechanisms. I didn't want to give up Never Never Land. I mean, it's Disneyland. If a guy is finding it easier to meet women, he's gonna be more prone to just enjoying those first 3-4 months, and when it gets hard, he's gonna give up. Why go into the pain? And there's women that do this too. It's not just a man thing, but you don't actually get to that deeper love that is safe, that is connecting, that is giving and receiving and supportive. What if you're a Peter Pan in Never Never Land and then you break your ankle and you need support, or break your shoulder like I did? Like, literally you need support, and you could just be alone forever. You can do it. You can, I mean, if you're like upfront and a guy's like, I don't ever want to get married, I don't ever want to commit to a serious relationship, and the two adults decide to go into just enjoying 3 months together and leaving, like, I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I think there's a calling deep down in every boy to be a man and to love a woman deeper. And maybe that man might even be called to have children and support children. And if you want to rise to that occasion, you have to learn how to find fulfillment in the deeper love. That's not the lust. That's not the coping. Because if you're constantly chasing those things, and this is what happens, a man loves that first 3 months. He knows he doesn't want to be Peter Pan forever. He doesn't want to be that guy. So he gets married, but then he's still living in Never Never Land. He's just hiding it from the wife. He's addicted to porn. He's addicted to alcohol. He's addicted to drugs. He's just got these coping mechanisms. He kind of just hides in the dark, and he's like, shows up and he's the man, but he's still kind of reliant on all these other.
He's just a little boy dressed up as the man.
I mean, and I don't want to shame anyone for that. Like, that everyone's on their own journey to try to be the best version of themselves they can be. And I would never shame a man for where he's at in his journey. I'm not a guy that wants to shame men for their porn habits or addictions or alcohol. Like, that's just not my style. That's not what I want to do. I want to help men. I want to meet them where they're at and help them just become a version of themselves they're more proud of. You know, I think we're all somewhere deep down Peter Pan. I mean, I still have a little Peter Pan in me that's like calls my name. You know, it's just learning how to deal with him.
I think there's like a healthy level of Peter in all of us.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
like our playful inner child. But
Yes, and
like,
that's the healed
yeah,
inner child, as people would say. The healed inner child can play and dance and enjoy themselves and feel confident, but an unhealthy one is clawing for attention or not wanting to feel the way they feel, suppressing, and I think it's just about rising when the time comes. So I think a lot of men do leave Never Never Land, but some do it and kind of resent it. They're kind of like, I left my playfulness aside, and then they're a slave to the job and the kids, and they quit their hobbies, and they feel like they've turned into this like grumpy old man. And I think that there's a healthy way to understand and find fulfillment and bring Peter with you on this journey, you know, if that makes sense.
no, that does make sense. And I think that is a really interesting take on like early stage love
Mm-hmm.
and and how what happens with early stage love. But I'd actually be curious to explore what happens when there's no longer love in relationships after 10, 15, 20 years. Like where does the love, like how do you get to a place where you once did deeply truly love someone and then it's the love is no longer there? Is it that someone's, and I know you don't love the like love is a choice, but is it like did people stop choosing to love?
No, I do like that love is a choice now. I didn't like it when it was said when I was younger
Okay.
because I like it bugged the Peter Pan in me.
Right.
Because I wanted that I wanted love to be that. I wanted to believe that that first 3 months could exist forever because I loved that high. But I kind of have an interesting take on that. I think this isn't a blanket statement, but when people lose the love, it's mostly they thought the love was the romance. You know? I think if they fell in love, they fell into the romance. I don't believe you fall in real love. I think you work for real love. I think you fall into romance and infatuation and lust and enamored by the other person, but you don't fall into I don't we didn't fall into the love we have. We
Well, we fell into romance and lust and what we thought was
and
love
we worked our ass off
to
for
build
for
love.
the love we have.
Yes.
Um so I don't know how we lose the love we have. I think if we lose the love we have, it's because we're not keeping up with ourselves. Like we did an episode where it starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
If one of us, our downfall, which I don't think would ever happen, but like if I was like a risk assessment guy and I was making an assessment on our relationship, I would say anyone who's in love and has a deep level of love that they've built and worked really hard for, you're probably not going to lose it because you've worked so hard for it that you care for it, right? You take care of the things you've worked for. The things you fell into and got lucky with, maybe you don't take care of as much. But the weakest point is usually one person not being honest, not taking care of themselves and starting to lust after other things outside the relationship, not even necessarily people, but let's say we have kids together, like we have the girls, let's say we had another kid together and all of a sudden I started getting really this pull to live a different style of life rather than raising kids. And I was lusting after a single life, a more adventurous life, not the life that we created together. That's where I think the weakest point is. Like one person not taking care of their mind, their mental health, and they start to have cravings and they want that dopamine back. They want the romance. They want to fill a void. And instead of trying to get it filled in the relationship and talking to the other partner and going like, hey, I'm feeling not fulfilled. I think something's off. Maybe it's me. Like we examine it. We think, how can we adjust things around here? Or what do you need to take care of your mental health? Do you need to go to yoga? Do you need to meditate more? Like, do you need to eat healthier? And they just start thinking they can fill it with something else. And then they go. Then they start to go on and they get pulled away. And that happens. I think that happens all the time. But I don't think two people like lose the love that know what it's like to work for it. Like if we lost it, which I would say we do lose it sometimes. Like there are days where we look at each other and we're not super, it's not like we hate each other, but we're like, I need some space. Like, I need alone time or whatever. And in those moments, it's like the trust is we're going to have a conversation and rebuild. Every so often we have to rebuild and reconnect and adjust our love.
Well, and I think that's where intimacy comes in because, and you've said it before, intimacy is into me see, where you can truly see the other person in all aspects, in truth, and you can have these honest conversations without judgment of, hey, how are you? Are you struggling right now? What needs to shift? And like, I think love is those intimate, hard conversations and being able to have them, not avoid them, and truly see each other and then make adjustments if there need to be adjustments. But so often it's our wounds and our ego that if our dynamic is unhealthy, if someone comes to the other person and they're like, look, I'm struggling because of XYZ, if the other person takes that personal and is like, you're struggling, you mean you don't love me, I do everything for you, and like you're still not happy, they don't see the partner, then you actually, like, that's where love is lost because, okay, now we're not building together anymore. You're taking it personal that I'm struggling and we're not seeing each other. And like that can snowball and become problematic. So,
yeah, for sure. And I think that, that's where the definition I like is caring about the way the other person feels, because in those moments you're caring about the other person's experience and you're wanting them to be happy in this life. You're curious, you're open, like you said. So I think it's like when you care about the way somebody else feels, you're into them.
yeah. And then I think I want to caveat that though, too, is I agree with you that caring about how the other person feels is love. But that's not to be mistaken for codependence, which is if you're not okay, I'm not okay. So love is caring that the other person's that is if I'm not okay, love calls you to care about that. But codependence would be for you not to be okay if I'm not okay. And that's unhealthy love.
You said it great. I think codependence, when I'm codependent, I don't care about the way you feel. I need you to feel good feelings, positive emotions. I can't handle you feeling down emotions or going through a hard time. Because if you're going through a hard time, then I'm caught up in your storm and I'm codependent. When I care about the way you feel, I just care about it. I'm not trying to change it. I'm not trying to like do anything about that. That leaves space for, like, let's say you were unhappy with our life, or you did feel like this house was too stressful or something, and you were like, hey, I gotta make a change. This doesn't feel right, and I just, something in me is telling me we need to make a change, or I need to make a change. And I'm not worried about what that means for me. I just care that you feel that way. And then we can problem solve together in a very healthy, interdependent way. Like, I'm not insecure that all of a sudden what that means about me or says about me, like, you want to leave me, you want us to move, like, blah, 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 blah. It just, we can get really caught up in these conversations when we feel so threatened by what the other person's feeling inside. I think a lot of relationships, people don't want to actually tell the other person how they're feeling inside, not because they don't want to be seen, but because the other person couldn't handle it. Like, if I was going through a depressed time and I wasn't feeling love, and I wasn't feeling loved by you, and I wasn't feeling anything good inside, I feel like I could tell you that. And I don't feel like, yeah, you'd be bummed. It would be hard for you, but I could just tell you that. And I don't feel like you would take it necessarily personal. And that feels really healthy. But if I thought you were going to take it personal and you were going to spiral in your insecurities, then I would withhold that information from you. I would keep it inside, and we wouldn't be connected. And then slowly we'd drift apart, and we'd not know why. So many people are just afraid. I think so many people are just enmeshed and codependent with one another that they tend to not be able to be honest and truthful. So they fall in romance, they fall in what they think is love, they fall into lust, then they get married, and then they can't really have that deeper level trust and connection. That's two independent people who are, wanting to support one another.
Yeah, and I think that's where I would actually say you can still have love, but I think what you're referring to is two wounded people who love each other. And they can love each other, but only to the depth of where their wounds will allow them to go. And what that looks like is your wounds can come out in making the other person walk around on eggshells so that they don't tap into your wounds. So maybe that's like the husband's like, look, like, I'm not comfortable you leaving for the house in your workout clothes and your sports bra because other men might see. So, you need to dress differently. And then all of a sudden the wife's like, feeling like, oh, I can't go get the mail in my workout clothes because if the neighbor sees me, so now I'm on eggshells. Like, kind of a silly example off the top of my head.
It's real though.
But real. Like, that's an example, and that's where control comes in, because it's you're saying, hey, you need to change your behavior so my wounds aren't activated. Mm-hmm. And now someone is like on eggshells or feeling controlled because the other person's wounded. And that's where we go, relationships are mirrors, right? I believe the point of love, the point of relationships is to be each other's mirrors. You're supposed to trigger me and activate me as much as possible for me to go, oh, shoot, I have work to do there. And whatever gets triggered in me is not a reflection of your behavior. It's a reflection of my wounds. And that's how we heal. And that's how we evolve and we grow, is actually directly through that mirror. So you can still have love when you're wounded. Mm-hmm. Because we love each other and our wounds still pop up. I think we're always going to be healing. I think we have done an insane amount of work to where we don't trigger each other very often, But when it does pop up, it goes, oh, shoot, I'm wounded there. I have to heal this so that it doesn't negatively impact you, because our wounds hurt us. And when we're in pain, our behavior we exhibit is defensiveness, control, making the other person walk around on eggshells. Or it can actually be like straight up abuse, whether that's physical abuse, emotional abuse. That's what our wounds inside of us cast onto our other partners. And again, I think you can still love that person and have abusive and negative behavior that has to be worked on. And I think that was kind of what I was trying to say in the beginning, but I didn't do a very good job of articulating of, I think that you can still love someone without loving yourself. But I think maybe I was wrong in how I worded that. I think the correct answer is you can be wounded and still love, but love calls you true, whole, beautiful love as God intended it, calls you to heal, because love that hurts someone else isn't really love.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think people can still love, but if you're not willing to heal, you're never going to be able to deepen your love. And your wounds are going to start to fracture the love and slowly kill it over time. And so if you want to keep a loving relationship for a lot of years that goes deeper, and you want to still be in love when you're 80 years old and really have a new depth of love, you have to work the soil. You have to pull the weeds and till the land and scrape everything up and continue to go deeper and constantly realign and excavate. It's work. It's a lot of work to stay in love. Like, we work at our love all the time, and we've learned it pays off, and we've really, I think, seen the fruit of our love, and so we're willing to put in the work, and that's why I feel secure in this relationship, because I know deep down both of us want to be in love 40 years from now. We want to keep excavating, keep working, and we're willing to throw away everything we have for something bigger every day. So, like, we're going to constantly go deeper. But as soon as one person goes, I'm good with what we got, I just want to stay put here, and we don't want to go deeper, I don't want to talk about those things, I don't really want to, like, you're not growing in love. And if you're not growing in love, the love will grow stale. And, I think it's a constant filtering process, and going deeper. And I just don't think you can, I think you can love if you're still wounded, but you can only love so deep. And that other person is eventually going to get frustrated. Like, if I loved you to the point of my wounds, but I never wanted to address any of them, eventually you would just grow frustrated.
Yeah. And I think this is actually a really interesting point on that, and was one of the first things I learned that was very sobering for me when I first started to heal, was you attract people who have the same level of wounding that you do. Different types of wounds, doesn't have to be the same, but the same level of wounding. And so if you have a partner and you're like, this person is super triggered, super wounded, so are you. And I say that.
People don't like that, though.
No, I was so mad when I learned that, because I really wanted you to be the problem. I was bought into the belief that you were.
Yeah.
And it was so sobering.
I'm the one with the childhood trauma. I'm the one that went through a divorce.
Yeah, it just was like, what, me? Like, no.
But I had also done a lot of healing on my wounds. to get
Good
to the
point.
point where
Yeah.
I
So
had,
you had done
yeah.
you had done a lot of work before we had met, and so I
Mhm.
think that helped you quite a bit. And well, I think that's actually a case for why you should try to heal as much as you can before
meeting
meeting
someone,
someone.
you'll meet a higher caliber person for sure.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then you can, then within the relationship, you're going to, once you get together, you're at the same level. But if you are healing and they are not, then at some point, the dynamic can be thrown off. You can heal more than your partner, but a lot of what we see is as you start healing, your partner oftentimes wants to rise up with it, or
They
you
get
heal so much
insecure.
that you leave.
Yeah.
Like that's typically the two options.
Yeah, they get insecure and start trashing your growth, and then eventually hits a breaking point, and there's not a lot of love there. I mean, I think people can love each other through that though. Like love can bridge it, you know? I do think love can bridge those gaps and make up for the difference if two people have kids together and one, the guy doesn't want to grow anymore and the woman wants to do a bunch of growth, and they can somehow still love each other, and she just accepts the
That's
depth that he
exactly
can
what I was going
love.
to say. It just takes radical acceptance of where
Yes.
your partner is at
And
and
it's
boundaries.
Yep. And it's super frustrating and it's hard, but it can be done.
Love is a hard one to tackle, let me tell you. There's just a lot to it.
Yeah, I hope we did a decent job. I think I kind of wanted to just tell our story, a little bit of it in context of, and using us as an example. It's been a growth journey of learning how to go into our wounds for one another. I mean, neither one of us want to hold the other back. And that's kind of a commitment we made to each other, where my insecurities will hold you back at times. Your insecurities will hold me back. We really want to not slow each other down a lot at all.
Because that's what love is. Love is saying, I'm not going to hold you back. I want to see you reach your highest potential, and I'll heal whatever I need to so that you can get there.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is I feel the most loved by you when you are slowing me down because you are insecure or going through a hard time. You are just not at your best. I feel so loved by you when you acknowledge it and you just appreciate me for my patience with you. And you go, I don't want to be the weakest link right now, slowing us down, but I just am. And thank you for being by my side and hanging in there with me. And I will do my work to get back on pace. That, and also when I am slowing us down and I'm weak and in my insecurity and I'm the one holding us back, when you don't shame me and I'm telling you, I hate this, I hate being the weakest link, I hate that I'm slowing us down right now, and you go, it's all right, I just do your work and let's get back on pace as soon as we can. And when you do both those things, like I feel insanely loved. I feel safe. I feel I'm safe to be me. I'm safe to go at my pace. And I also don't have a partner that's going to not try to, hold their side of the weight too. That feels like love to me.
I love that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully we did a decent job explaining our definitions of love, and
I think this could be
hopefully it
like a
helps.
10. We're not going to do this into a 10-part series, but I think it could because
We'll
there's
probably do
so
it
much
again.
to it. So.
Yeah. But I have a training I have to get to. So love you guys.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.